Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes for people to log on, and then we will get started with our program. So good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Pricing for Profit, Key Considerations for Laundromat Owners. I'm Danielle Bauer. I'm the Director of Membership and Education at the Coin Laundry Association, and I'm going to serve as your facilitator for today's event. So for 2023, we have started something new with our webinars. Each month, the topic will be focused on a feature article that was in the previous month's issue of Planet Laundry. We thought that this would give our readers and attendees an opportunity to read on a topic and then have the chance to ask some of the people in the article more questions, kind of take a deeper dive on the topic. So the Pricing for Profit, as you can see, was featured in last month's issue. The cover is up there now that you should have received. So this topic has been something that laundromat owners have discussed a lot over the years and really have to consider continuously to remain profitable and competitive. One thing that I do want to mention for our program today is due to antitrust laws and price fixing, and CLA being a trade association, we cannot share equipment and then pricing today, the exact specifics of how much people are charging. However, what we do want to focus on today is sharing some strategies for pricing, such as when's it time to increase, the percentages of the increase, things like that. I do think that you're still going to find the content extremely valuable. And if you want more specifics on pricing, I would encourage you to reach out to our panelists directly to discuss some of that. So we're going to start the program by asking our panelists some questions, and then at the end, I will take your questions. So to ask a question, in that control panel that is on the right side of your computer, there is a box for questions. If you type your question in there, that will pop up and I will see it and I'll be able to ask our panelists. All right, so with that, I would like to introduce our two panelists. If you guys want to pop on your videos, we first have Al Bingenheimer from Neighborhood Laundromat, and Matt Langa, Apapane, I think it's your LLC, with us today. So maybe if you could start, and we'll start with you, Al, just giving a little background about how many stores you have, where you're located, just a little bit about yourself so the audience knows who our panelists are.
Hello, everyone. I'm Al. I'm here in Richmond, Virginia. About 8-9 years ago, I bought 2 laundromats that were in the city of Richmond. And then I bought a 3rd location in 2019, and now I'm building my 4th location now. So I went from corporate marketing world into the laundromat business, which, kind of understanding how to deal with people and how to connect and communicate with people was very beneficial in this industry where we're dealing with the public every day.
Definitely. Matt, same thing, just give a little background about your business.
Sure. I've got one store. It's in Seattle. I've had it for about 4 or 5 years. I've had offers in on a few others, but it's kind of a market that's been hard to hit to get that 2nd and 3rd store. My background's engineering and management. I was in a corporate world for 20-25 years before that, stepped out of that and stepped into this, and then loving it since, actually.
Great. So let's get into our first question. So Matt, we'll stick with you. So what is your pricing strategy for your self-service laundry business?
Sure. We've got 3 revenue streams. So we've got a small dry cleaning part, we've got the wash, dry, fold part, and then we've got the self-serve. But what I really do is I start at the big picture of the profit and loss statement, and even maybe the balance sheet, but definitely the profits and loss statement, looking at the self-serve revenue. And I also know what my self-serve expenses are, but setting some margins, profit margins that I want to achieve, or profit targets for the year, and then I try to work it backwards, and then make it work from that. And so that's not always the easiest thing to do, and sometimes it's too broad to start that big, but it really helps me stay focused on the health of the business and what revenues I'm gonna need.
So you don't have a set time where you would say increase prices. You base it on what your expenses are.
No, I'm sorry, absolutely I do. And I kind of have a philosophy to try to raise prices every year. And when I want to do it, I want to do it in February. I typically shoot for February or March. I want to avoid the shell shock before the holidays when people are stressed out about Thanksgiving and Christmas. I want to give them a little bit of coverage since then, and then I'll come in. And so by February and March, I've also had a lot of my costs increased. So there's some planning ahead for that, because I'm going to be absorbing those price increases from either utilities or other suppliers.
That's a great idea for timing, because you feel like everything increases January 1st. So taking that a step back, they don't, it's not as harsh, I guess.
I did try to do it before November, say October or November once, and then I realized I didn't go enough to cover some of my supplier increases.
So Al, same question. What is your pricing strategy for your self-service business?
I start off, a little competitive intelligence, kind of peeking at the store, see what the rest of the world looks like. Obviously, I don't want to regurgitate what Matt said, but having the insights into what your profit and loss is very important in any business. So I keep track of that every month. For example, from November to December, whatever happened with utilities, my utilities are 50% higher from one month to the next. That to me is a trigger, right? That's money now that's not going into my pocket. So I have to make up for that difference. One of the strategic things that I do is I do customer appreciation days every year, where I give people back, I give back. So I take $1 off the big machines, 50 cents off the small machines, give them more dry time, kind of make a deal out of it between Christmas and New Year's, those 2 weeks. What's nice about that is now that you've lowered prices, they don't remember what the real price is. It's a perfect opportunity for me to raise prices after customer appreciation days. So, you play with the numbers a little bit. then when you go back to regular prices, you add your price increase at that time. So that's what I've done, just to kind of not really trick the market, give back, but at the same time, make sure I'm doing it in a way that gives back and takes care of the price increases I need.
I love the customer appreciation day. That's a great idea.
It's a little thing, and for all those times that someone lost a quarter, for all of those little things that they maybe didn't ask for a refund, that's an opportunity for them to say, you know what, I finally got my money back, and I didn't have to smash the glass. I didn't have to try to find another way to get it back. It's a nice way that you give back to the customer. They don't feel like they need every quarter back because they know they're going to get it back during that period of time. And we all end up getting very repetitive. You start to get to know your customers, and they actually look forward to it now. They're like, hey, when's that customer appreciation days again?
Very nice. So continuing with you, Al, so has your strategy changed over the years? You both have been in the business a while. So has your strategy changed? And if so, how and why?
It hasn't changed. It's still focused on profitability. I'm in this to make money. I mean, that's what I'm doing. And I'm also trying to provide a service to the community. And I try to do things, and I want to care. So between those three things, profitability, taking care of my customers, and having the insights to say, you know what, I care enough to give back to the customer. And as I raise prices, I also try to reinvest. So as I'm getting more revenue, I want to make sure that, I get a couple new carts or a new folding table, all of those things that don't mean much to me because I'm not using it. But when I bought a set of new carts, that was right before Christmas, and people are like, this is the best Christmas present I've ever gotten. I thank you for these new carts. They actually roll straight. When you're getting letters in the suggestion box, in the refund box, because you just bought a new cart, so I make sure that whenever I do these things and I raise prices, and I feel like, I don't want them to feel like I'm taking it out of their pocket. I also want them to feel like, hey, he's making this place better as well. So what's a new coat of paint? It's a new cart. It's new wheels on the cart. It doesn't have to be a big expense. Or cleaning the wheels of the cart. I mean, I've walked into laundromats, and there's a lot. There's half a dog still rolled up in the wheel. So that it's just little things like that that shows that you care. And that's one thing I think that's driven my success, is my customers say, you know what, you care. The place is clean. The light fixtures are changed. There's little things like that if I'm going to take money out of the business, I also want to show them and giving back.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, if they're coming there every week, they probably do notice all those things. So what about you, Matt? Has your strategy changed over the years?
My very first price increase was just a quarter or two above whatever the VEN price was at the time. And at the time, I felt that's what I was trapped or constrained into doing. Like, okay, we charge, $2 or we charge $3, I'm going to raise a quarter, or I'm going to raise 50 cents. Because I thought if I did it a big jump, it would just shake the world. And that's when I really woke up to connecting it with my profit and loss statement, because there wasn't going to be correction or a fixing of the business if I felt constrained with that 25-cent step. And that's when I started to work it backwards. So yes, I felt constrained when I started with just those incremental prices from where I was. But then when I actually looked at the profit and loss statement and said, no, this is where the price has to be for me to run a successful business. And just as Al has said, I am in this to make money. It has to make a profit. This is not a charity. It's not a nonprofit, but it's also a very integral part of the community and a service and a need that's needed. So it is that tug of war of what people can afford. And that's where kind of in what Al's already talking about with, new investments in the property is also a communication with this, both through your team members and to the customers, that we're trying to run a successful business. It's hard to make, this business work. There's a lot of coffee stands out here, and I say, hey, they can sell a coffee of, $3 or $4 coffee every 5 minutes, but your $3 wash takes the machine offline for 30 to 40 minutes. I said, so we have to run a successful business here, and I think they appreciate that. And so if you look over our prices over the last 5 years, there's significant increases because I took those handcuffs that I'd put on myself about these little steps from where I was and worked it back from what we needed to be. So,
another thing that happened to me was I had a woman drive up in her Mercedes with her $50 4-inch nails and her cup of Starbucks coffee, complaining about the price of my machine. Yeah. And I looked at her and I said, you can get back in that Mercedes, chop those nails off, and take your Starbucks coffee, which costs more than my machine. It's just one of those things that it's like, it's easy to judge our industry for raising prices, but look what everybody else is spending money on. I have no trouble now raising prices when I see at the disposable income people are wasting between eyelashes, nails, you know what I mean? And those are the customers that I have. So, if they're going to yell at me for $7.75 for a 60-pound washer, then, but they'll pay $90 to get her, their eyelashes glued on. So.
If I could tell a similar story, I had a online review that said, oh, it's so expensive. And I noticed that reviewer had gone out to a handful of restaurants, and I don't want to make it like just a one-on-one argument, but I do reply to the reviews. And I say, I do notice that you thought our prices were expensive, but here's some context for it. For, the $3 or $4, you have clean clothes for 2 weeks. But if you go out to a restaurant, you've maybe spent $10 or $15 or $20 for one meal, instant satisfaction. So I don't know if either of us are overpriced, but I do think the price that we charge for 2 weeks worth of clean clothes is actually not that, egregious. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, I guess all in perspective to people. So Matt, what then pricing trends are you noticing in your market? So kind of outside of what you're doing, just the market in general.
It's interesting. I go and visit a lot of the laundromats, a lot of them, but I almost never focus on the price. I'm really looking at the culture and the cleanliness and the other ideas, whether it's the signage. So to be honest with you, I really don't have a good sense of the prices around us. And part of the reason for that is I need to run a successful business. I want it to run for a certain length of time, however many years I'm in this, and I want to be able to turn around and sell it or pass it along. And so that almost is all irrelevant to the prices around me. If I wind up having a reaction from my customers, or I'm starting to lose business because of my prices, I need to actually kind of look internally and say, do I have the skill set now or the energy? I'm on the older side. I've had a long career in another thing, and I did have a lot of experience of watching people with, they'd come in strong and then they lose, or their skills would change. And I want to be honest with myself about that too. It's like right now I've got some fresh ideas. I think I'm pretty good at this, but I want to be honest with myself and say, well, there's going to be a day where I might not be as good as I think I am. And that might be the time to hang it up. So that's why I'm not focusing on my competitors' prices.
What about you, Al? Do you have a sense of what the trends are in your market?
I do, partly because I've always tried to be the price leader. I always provide, in my mind, I provide a better product, so I want to be on the higher end of the price scale. I want to be at the top of the scale, honestly. But I think what I've seen is you've got people that are investing in new equipment, payment systems, doing what kind of modernizing our industry, have the ability to raise prices. But I also see the other side of the zombie mat, where I've got, zombie mats nearby that are lowering prices. And, you know, but then they also don't have any working lights in the space, and they haven't cleaned it in a month, you know, but in their mind, they're trying to attract customers by lowering price, and it's still not working. So I'm not going to change my strategy based on what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing it go both ways, which that's really kind of changing the pricing a little bit in certain markets. I'm not following anybody down. I'm going to keep where I am. I'm going to provide a better product. I'm going to focus more on repairs and maintenance. I try to maintain less than 2% outages. I got about 137 machines. So my goal is to not have anything out of service. I think right now I have 3. So, you know, and parts are becoming tough to get. So, you know, my goal is if it's not turning, it's not earning. So and I'm going to do everything in my power to keep those machines running. The zombie mat down the street can lower his prices, but he's only got 50% of the machines working. So he'll never be able to make the profitability that I do because I maintain all of my equipment.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that gap you talked about from the zombie mat who's lowering to you as the leader, do you think that gap over the years has increased or decreased or kind of remained the same?
It's increasing. So like I said, it's still increasing. He's literally just lowered prices again. There's one operator in town that's got, I think, about 8 stores that doesn't believe in cleaning. It just honestly just doesn't, or repair. And it just boggles my mind that you can pay for rent in all these spaces and have half of your equipment broken and filthy as hell. And what's the point of being in the business if you're not going to do it the best that it can be? So I've seen this kind of 30% is about where it is right now. So from the price of their machines to my machines is about 30% lower.
Wow, pretty significant.
Danielle, if I can throw in another thing, I think
Sure.
one reason I don't look at prices so much is that if I go 30 minutes in any directions, north, south, or east, I'm traveling into different cities and counties, and our water, the water and sewer where I am is extremely expensive, as well as the rent. And if I travel 30 minutes in any of these directions, I'm really traveling into different water and sewer districts, as well as rental markets. And I can look at those prices and say, well, how do they pay their bills with a VEN price that's half of mine? And it's because their expenses are a lot different. So if I really want to fixate on that, then I really also have to understand their expenses. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, and I would imagine that's similar in other markets where there can be big differences in the cost to run the store. So Matt, on the self-service side, what payment options do you offer? So coin,
Sure.
card, whatever.
Yep. So when I bought it, it was quarters only. One of the first increases I did, or not increases, I guess they might have been very similar, the timing wise, but adding the dollar coin option, and now there's a phone app option. And so that I had a lot of feedback on, can we pay with credit card? Can we pay with credit card? And what I wound up deciding to do was, it was one of the things that you put the app on your phone and then the phone talks to the machine. And so that's how we check the box of the credit card. So
would you say those payment options have impacted your pricing structure?
Yes and no. I still feel constrained to the quarter. Not super excited about that. I'm not going to get away from cash anytime soon. I'm trying to get to everything's vended at a $1 so I can just do the dollar coin, but with a personal philosophy of raising prices every year, I don't feel comfortable doing the $1 jumps every year. I haven't accepted the freedom that the app pricing would give me of doing, 10 cents here or 15 cents there, because I do want to have some consistency across my store. So It's a self-inflicted or a handcuff I put on myself to stay constrained to the quarter. I look forward to the day of having a bigger freedom on that.
Makes sense. So Al, what about you? What payment options do you offer at your stores?
I have quarters or cash or mobile app. So I did the research on, do I want swipers on every machine? Do I want, and so that I decided to go with the idea of Speed Queen Insights was my first store where I turned it on. And then I went with Laundry Boss at my other stores. And now my city locations are 70% credit, 30% cash. So, I mean, I'm at a point now I don't have to go there, but every 10 days to collect money if I wanted, and which is great. But my third location is still 90% cash, 10% credit. So, you know, it depends on your area, whether it's going to work or not. But at the end of the day, I wanted to make it easy for someone to give me their money. You know, if they want to use a card, I'm okay with it. Do I like paying $20,000 a year in credit card fees? I do not. But when I watched a woman walk into my store, load 5 machines, then look around and realize there's no credit card swipers, and she's like, oh crap, I have no cash, and she starts unloading those 5 machines, I said, hold on a minute, download the mobile app. And that's when I realized it is incremental business, because that woman never left. She didn't go down the street to a place that had credit card readers. And, you know, I can't attribute every dollar to the credit card usage, but like I said, my business has grown every year since I've owned it, continues to grow, and including after I take the fees out. So it's worth the investment. I'm trying to make it, when I make a decision on equipment or infrastructure, I'm making a 20-year decision. I mean, that's, this industry, it takes you that long. I mean, it really does. So when I'm making a 20-year decision, do I want to keep accepting quarters 20 years from now when vend prices are 50% higher? Absolutely not. You know, I want to make it easy for the customer when they can walk up to a machine with a phone and scan it and start it, or add 5 machines to their basket and start them all at once. I mean, that's the future. It's not cha-chink, cha-chink, cha-chink.
So with the non-quarter option, Al, do you find that there are some pricing benefits to that?
Yeah, it's allowed me to continue to raise prices. And what you find is someone that's using their credit card, they don't care if the machine's half full, right? They're going to look, and I'm of the mindset, all of my big machines are closest to the door, because you know what? People don't want to walk. So if they walk in and they grab the biggest machines by the door and they know they're paying with their phone, it's not a cash transaction, so they don't see it as cash. So they'll just scan and start. And I think that's the benefit of moving away from cash. I can tell you, when I'm trying to start a 60-pound machine with a handful of quarters and a couple of them get jammed, it's not fun. But watching someone scan it and start it in a matter of seconds, then, you know, and they see the smile on their face because now they hit the button and they walk out and they come back later, you know. So it's a different experience. It's a more pleasant experience, and the customer's not as price conscious when they make the decision using the card.
Absolutely. Did you have something to add, Matt? I wasn't sure.
Well, I can. One kind of anecdotal story, as I said, we also have wash, dry, fold, and the dry cleaning partnership. And one decision I made inside that side of the business was not to accept any more cash. I just decided we're open till 10 o'clock at night. I don't necessarily want to have cash in my office or my attendants having to deal with it. And it took a lot of stress off of my attendants. So how does that connect to the self-serve side? The self-serve customers will come in, well, I don't want to get $20 in quarters. I don't want to get $10 in coins. And then we'll direct them to the credit card. We'll say, hey, you can use your app if you have a smartphone, and you can put this connection on. And then also to Al's point about people pulling clothes out of the wash, I've just had people say, oh, I don't have any cash. they're gonna get in the car and they're gonna go off. I said, well, we do have this other feature. And when they learn that, they're like, oh, that's fantastic. I've gotten nothing but positive feedback about adding that as a payment option.
Well, what's the statistic? Something like 92% of people own a smartphone, so it makes sense that would be an option that they want. So we're getting near the end of our questions. I see we do have some questions. Just a reminder to our attendees, if you have questions for Matt or Al, just type them into the chat box, the question box. So I want to transition a little bit to dryers. There's, I know on social media and the online forum and things like that, there's always a lot of discussion about opinions on free dry and full cycle dry method. So let's start with full cycle dry. Do either of you offer that?
I do not, but I will on my next price increase, just because I'm at a point now where minutes per quarter, it just doesn't seem like enough. So, and when I'm charging a certain amount for a 60-pound washer and it only costs $1.50 to dry it, it just doesn't seem reasonable in my own mind. So I think full cycle is the future for, once we get to a point, vend prices are getting, they're high. I mean, they're not low, but they're going to continue to increase based on utilities and everything else. So for me, next year sometime I'll go to full cycle dry.
For all your stores, is that sort of your, yeah. What about you, Matt? It sounds like maybe you don't offer it now, but what's your opinion about full cycle drying?
Basically, my answer is almost identical to Al's. The whole quarter thing is getting to be a bit much, and it just seems like the necessary step for me to do within my store. So for I've got two dryer philosophies that are counter to getting to that point though, and so I've got an internal conflict. One of them is I try to use pricing to direct people to the machines that aren't getting used. And so if I have stacks, the top ones are loved, the bottom ones are neglected. So what I've done is I've given an extra minute on the bottom. And so I'm trying to, just through price, encourage some balanced usage. So I love this idea of the full cycle dry. So now, how does that going to mesh with the philosophy I've had for a little bit? I don't know how that's going to work. But what I ultimately like, connected either to full cycle dry or free dry, is the customer knowing when they walk in the door, I'm going to spend $10 and everything's going to be washed and dried. You know, that they just know the price when they go in. So we'll work that into further dryer conversations, but I'm probably going closer to full cycle soon.
So I don't think either one of you offer free dry. As we talked a little bit before this started, it's kind of a regional thing, but any opinions on free dry?
I'm not interested in introducing it to this market, that's for sure. I mean, I'm a marketing guy, so I understand the marketing behind it. I just don't, I like the word sale better than I like the word free, or, in my mind, personally as an owner, as a consumer, hey, if I see the word free, that's not a bad thing. But as a business owner, it's a slope that I don't want to slide down, because, I already have people in the marketplace making the price gap wider. I don't want to contribute to that myself.
Yeah. I have customers that are in just to dry, not regulars. And I'm also in an urban environment. So I also have some homeless and things like that who may be coming in after a wet day and aren't simply drying. And so I don't see an avenue for me doing free dry. If I have a residential customer who's coming in because their washing machine is down, or I'm sorry, their dryer's down, but their washing machine is working and they're just bringing in wet clothes, I do want them to pay for that. And it's also an opportunity for me to say, hey, you actually would have been all done if you just done everything here to begin with. And so, you know, we have an opportunity at that point. But if it was a free dry, I could see how those conversations might not even happen.
You know, and I think you have to be, and I'm unattended, so that's a store that has to be attended so you can monitor and deal with the people that walk in with, you know, 5 baskets of wet clothes, right? You're not giving them free dry. That's not what it's about. You know, it's for purchase. So, but I'm not set up for, you know, to be able to manage that internally. So.
Yeah. So one last question for both of you, and then I'm going to move to attendee questions. So maybe based on your own experience or what you've heard in the industry, but what would you say is a common mistake that owners should avoid with regard to pricing, specifically their self-serve business?
I'll start. I kind of have 2 on that. One is just from my own experience. I told you I felt constrained when I started of just going up a step from where I was, instead of looking at it from the big picture of the profit and loss and saying, this is where the prices need to be. And so once I looked at it from where they need to be, I just made the plan of how do I get from here to there as quickly as possible without really shell shocking the customers. So, you know, it's being a responsible business owner of saying, I need to make a profit. What kind of profit am I happy with? And then what are my prices from that? And then, so I think it's that fear. The mistake is being the fear of that you can't get to the price that you need. And then the second mistake, I think, comes with age. The longer we own these things, is that maybe we've got a good profit margin, and now the business feels good enough, and we've stopped managing it or driving it with the same energy that a real, you know, for lack of a better word, a capitalist business would be driving at. You know, it's like, oh, I got 18% last year. I'm only getting 15% this year. It's pretty good. Well, that's going to bite you. It's going to bite you when you want to sell the business. It's going to bite you in other avenues of it. And so I think that's just one of those mistakes that we're all just going to be a little complacent and slide into.
Yeah. How about you, Al?
Yeah, it's just having kind of that awareness of your business. For me, it was, I wanted new equipment when I first bought my places. So do the research, I figured out what that's going to cost, you know, so now that determines what my price is, right? Because I got to pay that equipment note. I've got to pay. So, I mean, it's strategically running your business based on where you want it to go. And for me, it was, I want more than one store. Now I've got 3, I'm building a 4th. Now I'm going to own the property. So I had you know, I want to get away from renting. So to do that, I need money. And the only way, I want the business to fund itself. You know, I gave it its money at the beginning. It needs to give it back now. So, you know, having those, I think business intelligence, having the ability to, you know, don't be afraid to look a little deeper at your business. You know, I think I bought 2 zombie mats that were actually very busy. 50% of the equipment's broken. You know, I fixed it all of a sudden, I'm making 50% more. And I'm like, wow, this is great. Now imagine if I got stacked dryers, imagine if I put bigger machines. So, you know, I got the bug early and I said, you know what, this is what I want. So to get what I wanted, I needed more money. The only way I'm going to get more money in this industry is to raise my prices or get more people through. And my stores were small. So to get the throughput, I needed, so I invested 200 G4. So, I mean, I really focused on how do I get people in and out faster so I can get more revenue. So think about all of those things. Some people are like, oh, I want 100 G machines because I want 50 cents more in the dryer. No. I don't want 50 more cents. I want the $5.75 vend price, or the, you know what I mean, the $7 vend price 4 more times throughout the day. That was my goal. So it's just a different thought, but you have to have the information to make decisions. The profit loss, right? The turns, what machines are people using? And one of the nice things about the payment systems, you know, you get that insight into the business that you didn't have before. I'm not going to count quarters from boxes. I don't have the time for that. But now I can run a report and make decisions. So don't be afraid to invest in your business to know what's happening, because a lot of people just don't know. And if you don't know where you can go because you don't know where you are. So you're kind of stuck, right? And you know, it's scary, right? Spending money and investing in your business is scary. The idea of me having to pay for things rather than the business earning it and paying for it, yeah, that was scary at first. But you know what? Focus on your business, make a better product. You know, don't be afraid to be better than the guy across the street or down the street. And the customers will notice the difference, and you just got to continue to build on that. And I think that fear of, you know, should I, could I, would I, you know, that mindset has to change. Get the information, understand where your business is, where it can go, and then how to get there. And I think that I knew that right away, and I went and did it. And I did it a second time, and I did it a third time. I'm doing it a fourth time. So I've got the bug. So don't be afraid to dig deep into your business and know where it is, so you can take it somewhere different.
Yeah, great. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Also challenge if you spend time in your stores, you're starting to create a personal relationship with your customers. And I think for many of us, that's an awkward situation. Because they will vocalize, wow, that price went up, that price went up. And now this is a personal relationship. I've talked to them about their kids, or I've talked to them about their job. And I'm the guy who controls the price. And so I think it's everything Al said is you also have a responsibility to your business, and you've got goals going forward. I loved one of the things Al said right at the very beginning is I buy new carts. You know, when you're in that personal conversation and they're saying, wow, the price went up, you say, yeah, but this is an important service for our neighborhood, and I'm trying to give some back to you, whether it's Al's customer appreciation days or it's the new carts or the new machine. So it's very awkward to speak to people you know and take more money from them, but you have a responsibility to your business. And when you think of your business, if you've got team members, think about taking care of them too. That's where part of that price increase goes, is to helping them pay their bills. So they look to you to run a healthy business, and the healthy business is going to require revenue growth.
Good advice. Well, we do have quite a few questions from our attendees. So first one is, can you speak to pricing on cold, warm, hot water, extra rinse? So again, do you offer those options? Do you charge more for some of those options?
Al? I mean, I could start. I invested in, when I chose the equipment I have, I chose a control that I could upsell. So, you know, a light, medium, heavy wash, whatever, you know, whatever the descriptors are, depending on the manufacturer. But that was one of the things I wanted. And I did not focus on cold, warm, or hot, but I focused on light, medium, heavy. So heavy gives you the pre-wash and the extra rinse. You know, the middle of the road gives you, you know, longer wash, longer rinse, and then what I call it express wash will be your light wash, get you in and out faster. So now so that was my goal, was give someone that's all about time, they can choose the quick wash. Someone that just ran the tough mudder and is trying to wash all their clothes that are full of mud, they can do the, you know, the ultra and get it, you know, 2 washes and 3 rinses. So having that flexibility, you know, I see about 40% people choosing the, you know, the options. So that's additional revenue.
I couldn't tell you where I read it, but I do remember reading that more choice paralyzes people. I think if it's done simply on your machine, where like, oh, do you want the extra rinse? It's step by step. It's a little different. But I've got 2 different face plates on the machines. One machine's got 9 buttons, and another machine simply got 3 buttons of the water temperature. And the 3-button machine reduces stress on people. You would think that how hard is it to pick from the 9 buttons of to do your laundry. But people are constantly asking, well, what are the differences between these? And we've just found that if we simplify it, and so actually we're taking the options from the 9 buttons down to fewer choices. Part of the question is whether we charge more for the water temperatures. But so like Al, I do have 2 or 3 different pricing options depending on the features. I focus on my cost more than anything. Water is very expensive for me, and I think of time. You're renting the machine from me for a duration of time. So if you want to sit in the machine longer for 30 or 40 minutes, you're going to pay for that time. If you're going to want more water, you need to pay for that water. I don't have a price difference for my water temperatures. And that goes to how I open this whole thing. Now it's just too many choices. I need to pay for water. If you want more water, you need to pay for it. I need you out of that machine as quickly as possible for the next customer. So if you want more time, you need to pay for it. I just felt like if I'm putting a 3rd and a 4th option on there, I'm gonna blow up their brain.
It's kind of true. Someone asked a question about, is this webinar available after? And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention at the beginning that this webinar is recorded. So anyone who registered, you don't have to attend. Even if you just registered, you will get a copy of this webinar within 24 hours. So you can go back through it. The next question has to do with retooling. I'm not sure if either of you have retooled, but they're wanting to know what to typically expect in revenue lift when retooling. So when you retool, did you have an expectation maybe in percentage of what you would increase your revenue to cover that?
So I'll go first on this one. My retooling has been almost a no-brainer in the sense that when I went to the new machines, I didn't even need to increase revenue to help pay for it, because I was going from such inefficient old machines and that's how I justified my first equipment expense, is looking at my water usage from these old machines I was getting rid of to the new machines. I felt like, okay, I could even keep prices flat and I'm going to be able to pay my loan. But what I did is to a point Al said earlier, is you're showing the customer that you're improving the store, that you're really doing something for them too. Sure, you're putting more money in your pocket, but I think I'm not answering the question about a percentage increase, but I have absolutely followed the mantra of, you put new machines in, it's a good time to raise prices. Yeah. And I absolutely do look at the vent price and my expected turns to see if I'm going to be able to pay my loan or pay myself back, or how am I going to pay for that equipment. So there's in that. So.
Now, I've retooled all 3 stores. So bought them, retooled, and remodeled. So my expectation was, I originally looked at what my monthly expenses were for repairs. And, my equipment was, 1998, so I mean, it was working, but, it would melt everybody's clothes. I mean, if you had rayon or any synthetic fabrics, but people loved them because they were hot dryers, right? So they were pretty much baking everybody's clothes dry. After melting a few people's clothing, I'm like, okay, I can't afford to continue buying clothing. I can't afford to keep repairing this old stuff, because I was up $1,400–1,500 a month in repairs. So then I went and asked for, hey, what would a row of dryers cost me? It was like $1,200. I'm like, I'm already spending $1,400 repairing them. It's $1,200 for new, and you throw the efficiencies on top of that. So I increased about 40% business replacing the equipment. But I think the revenue's up because I focused on larger equipment.
Yeah.
Because the trend now is people want big machines. They want to throw everything in one big machine, one big dryer. So getting rid of the smaller machines, focusing on the larger, my revenue was going to go up. So there were more bigger machines available, and that's what happened. So second store, remodel, same thing happened. Third store, I've had business tripled at that store, because You know, it was such a good location. The equipment was just run down. So I've pretty much seen my expenses stay the same, but my revenue go up by about 40% because the efficiency of the equipment kept my, you know, my expenses the same, but now I'm generating 40% more revenue. So it's not rocket science, and you can do the math yourself. You just have to have the confidence and make the right decision on equipment mix, because, you know, when I look at a store now, for me, it's 20, 40, 60, 80. That's it. You know, I don't want 30s. I don't want all these weird sizes that you're not quite sure what it is. I want someone with a small load, be like, you know, it won't fit. Go to a 40, you know, or go to that 60, or, you know what, go to the big 80 pounder. And that's the philosophy I have now is you give them too many choices, it only hurts you, right? You want them to choose to go big, because big is where we make our money. So I'm a proponent of retooling. You know, I've always got my eye open for that zombie mat, because the price of fees these days to put in new water lines, I mean, there's diamonds out there. You just got to find one and have the, just have the ability to be able to see it and then remodel it and make it your own.
You both talked about accepting credit cards, and there is that, percentage, 3-4% fee. Someone's wanting to know, have you considered passing this on to the customer, or do you? And if not, why?
We pass it along. You have to look at what your state requirements are if you charge differently between cash and credit, and how you communicate that with the customer. But we have a different price for cash than we do for the credit card. And all of us, the attendants and everybody, if we're ever asked, we have that on every machine. Nobody's going to be surprised. It's going to say right there on the machine, this is a cash price. There's a different credit price. And then what's nice is that we're not inventing this. Everybody has been trained already with gas stations. So every gas station I drive by has a cash credit price. So we point at that, we say it's just like that.
Yeah.
And I just, instead of me doing two different prices, I priced my price increases as they're all credit. So, I make a little more on the, on the cash side, because, last year, I think I spent about $19,000 in credit card fees. So that's $19,000 not in my pocket. I mean, that's what it boils down to. But the flexibility that the customer has, I mean, it's worth the investment.
Yeah. So the next question, we talked about full cycle dry. Someone's wanting to know what that is, and I guess maybe we should explain that at the time. Do either one of you want to give a brief explanation, so anyone who didn't know what we were talking about knows what full cycle dry?
I'll let you have it.
My understanding of it is you pay one price and your clothes are all dry. But to be honest with you,
exactly, it's like a flat amount, and it dries.
My approach will probably be 45 minutes for, whether it's $2, probably $3 when I switch over. So it's a set time, but there's also top off still. So if someone, a bed bug issue, for example, you want to dry that sucker for an hour. So that person can pay for the full cycle and top off with quarters until they reach that 60 minutes. So, and it could be 40 minutes, it could be 30. With my 200G machines, I typically, in 32 minutes, the load is dry. So, but you get those people that just feel like they need 45 minutes to 60 minutes. I've sat and watched someone put 99 minutes on that dryer. And I'm like, oh, whoa. I said, is there a malfunction? She's like, no, I want that. And I'm like, okay. And I think what some people do, they're just renting the space, because then they want to come back 2 hours later. And that's what they're doing.
Your clothes have to be really hot after 99 minutes. I think this is directed at you, Matt. Can you explain the working backwards method to pricing for the fiscal year? I think that's when you were talking about looking at your profit and loss and.
Yeah. So I work with QuickBooks and do I know you can do these things on Excel or any, just in a spiral notebook or however you keep your books, but I actually do enter my financials into some accounting software. And I didn't know how to use it well when I first did, and I'm getting smarter and better at it. But what I really appreciate is that I have a profit and loss statement at the end of the year, and I can look at how expenses and revenues there's the relationship. And knowing that relationship, then I can pretend the next year, well, wow, what do I want those, what do I want that relationship to be? Do I want a 20% profit margin or what? And so then I'll say, okay, now my revenues have to be this much higher than they were last year. How am I going to get there? And so then I do it backwards to say, okay, I've got 20 washers in the store, they all charge this. I expect this many turns per day. Does that equal this high number? No, it doesn't. Am I going to get more turns per day? Well, what's my strategy to get more turns per day? Am I going to raise my price? So that's what it is what am I going to do in my store to get to this number? But this is the number I'm starting at, instead of like, well, maybe I'll just increase a quarter and just see where that falls at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I'll give a CLA plug here, but I'd love the state of the industry where I can get what are the average turns per day, what's the average vend price. I mean, all of that information is data that I use to make those decisions. How do I back into a price or revenue? It's all based on that information. Oh, 4.2 turns per day, that's the average. If I can beat the average, that's money in my pocket. So, I mean, that to me it's that business intelligence that you as a business owner need to be able to make smart decisions. We all have good gut instincts, but it's really nice when your gut is reinforced by the data.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. Yes, so just for everyone who's listening, CLA does do an annual survey each year of laundromat owners nationwide. We ask a bunch of questions. Some of it does have to do with size of store, number of machines, but we do ask about vend price, wash, dry, fold, pickup, delivery prices, employee wages. So a lot of the data that people are looking for, it is an average nationwide, but then we also break it down regionally. It's not by state, but it is by region, which I think helps because obviously a lot of those costs and things are different by region. So on our website, if you go to our e-store, if you're a CLA member, it's absolutely free. You can download the PDF. If you're a member, there is a cost to it. And we have the last couple years. Sometimes people like to look at year over year to sort of compare. So we're running out of time. So one last, I guess, kind of quick question for you, Al. You mentioned you do this customer appreciation day, but they're wanting to know if you offer any discounted days through the week. This particular person does 10% off wash and dry on Tuesdays and Wednesdays on slow days. Do you do anything like that, or just the once a year?
When I initially bought the locations, that was my plan to maybe like a Wednesday, Thursday on my slow days, but I'm fortunate enough that I'm busy enough on every day that I didn't want to subsidize my customers on a specific day because I had the volume. So that's why I chose to do the once. I do it twice a year. In the summertime, I do it during my slowest months, right? Summertime when kids go back to school and they're not in university, and then I do it again at Christmas through New Year's. 2 slowest times in the laundromat, I offer the best deals. And then when everybody comes back, the prices go up. So it's strategic for that reason, because it's the slowest time. It's the less money I have to invest, but it's also something I can brag about. Oh, I'm sorry, you're out of town, you missed it.
Matt, do you do any sort of discount on a day or anything like that?
No, and very intentionally. I don't want to be trying to get the low cost customer. I'm sensitive to the fact that we all might struggle with money from time to time, but I just I don't want to bring in coupons. I really appreciate Al. I hear Al's customer appreciation appreciation days as something completely different. I see the time of day pricing kind of as a coupon. I see Al's thing as kind of a marketing thing and a great way to communicate to the customers a thank you. So to me, those are two completely different strategies.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, well, thank you both very much. In the last, I'm just gonna take about 30 more seconds to share with you all some of our upcoming events. We do these virtual events once a month. As I mentioned, they focus on articles that are in Planet Laundry. So in April, we're doing growing your self-service business in a full service world. And May will be residential pickup and delivery. So if you go to our website, there's more details. They're both free, similar format to today, where we have some experienced owners sharing their perspective on these topics. We also do live face-to-face events. We brought back our local events we call CLA Connect Live. So posted on this slide is our upcoming events. So we've had one in Southern California and Florida already this year. North Carolina is our next one. Then you can see some others on the screen here. Again, if you go to this link on our website, you can find more information about exact location and how to register. We also do large national events a year. The one coming up in May that probably many of you have heard of is the Excellence in Laundry, and it will be May 9th through the 11th in a beautiful resort. You can see the picture here in San Diego. It will begin with an evening reception, and then we have about a day and a half of education where we bring in some really world-class speakers, and then of course plenty of time for networking with other operators. And of course, we try to allow little time at the end to enjoy the resort. There's golf and spa and all sorts of things to do there. So a really great event. There's also, we do exhibits of some of the products and services. So I know a lot of times people are looking for what's the best POS system or payment system. A lot of those vendors are there. You can see demos and talk to them. So it's a great place to kind of see what's new in the industry. Brand new this year, kind of tagging on to the Excellence in Laundry, CLA has started a Women Invented Laundry initiative, and we're doing our first full day event just for women. So that will be on May 9th, so the day before Excellence starts. We have some great speakers, and the focus is more on communications and building networks. Again, also a lot of networking opportunities to meet other women in the industry. Also, for a lot of the men on this webinar, I've had people ask, well, could my wife attend even if she isn't really involved in the business? Absolutely. The topics are really more business related with communications and networking. So you're going to attend Excellence and your partner would like to attend this event, we welcome anyone to attend. Same venue and everything. All right, well, Matt and Al, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us and sharing so much good information. For those of you who haven't read the article, I would suggest you do that as well. And I hope to see you all at a future event. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.